Hello, everyone, and welcome back to WNTBD Today Network, other known as What Needs to Be Done Today Network, sponsored by the MAAT American Aborigine Tribal Nation. Peace and love to our wonderful podcast team, those that are on their way here, all of you who are here today, and those who will watch this video later. We just thank you. And today is going to be the conclusion of our series, Image and Colorism, presented by Dr. Malo. Just want to let everyone know to please join us Wednesdays and Saturdays, the whole month of June, as we'll be celebrating our awesome patriarchs. We will have the podcast, The Patriarch Speaks, featuring amazing men and as our guest speakers in honor of the month of Father's Day. And without further ado, Dr. Malo, the floor is yours.
Greetings, everyone. This is Dr. Malo. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and I'm so happy to be here again. You are all welcome to join our free Crystal Village community and network with us. Just go to MAATCrystalVillage.com. You can access either on your computer or download the app by the same name on an Android phone from the Google Play Store. This is the last week on our 4-part series of Image and Colorism. And in this episode, I call it, Is There Life Outside the Color Box? I remember Dick Gregory from a long time ago. He was an author, actor, comedian, educator, activist. I remember him saying that on his job applications, he would put, when they asked for race, he would put off-white. And then he said that when he went to the interview, then they could decide just how off-white he was. Well, we saw from last week that colorism evolved from racism and is in and of itself a form of racism. As promised, let's see if we can clearly and succinctly define racism and racist, okay? We've already defined the word race in the context in which we're using it. Now, the reason context is so important is it eliminates confusion and keeps us on track. So here's an example of what I mean. Now, here are 3 complete sentences from the Bible that are attributed to Jesus. Judas went out and hung himself. Go and do likewise, and what you do, do quickly. Now, if you were to read them that way, you would believe that Jesus wanted you to hang yourself like Judas and do it without delay. But the sentences are all taken out of context. Neither of the texts are even in the same books of the Bible, let alone in the same verses. And this tells us that any text taken out of context is a pretext. And a pretext is a false reason or excuse used to hide the true motive or intention. This is only useful to attorneys, politicians, car salesmen, and car saleswomen, okay, and con men and con women, of which we are neither. So when we say race, we're talking about the ethnic group. So where did the word racism come from? Where did it originate? It's always important, to look at the origins and beginnings of something, and that way you can possibly explain how and why it evolved. What you see on the screen is Brigadier General Richard Henry Pratt. He was a United States Army officer who founded the Carlisle Indian Industrial School in Pennsylvania in 1879, and he served as its longtime superintendent. Now, prior to this, Pratt supervised the Native American prisoners of war who were held at Fort Marion in St. Augustine, Florida. So he's known for saying, kill the Indian, save the man. But he was referencing the ethos of the school and efforts to forcibly assimilate the Native Americans into quote unquote white American culture. He's also associated with the first recorded of the word racism, okay? He used in 1902 to criticize racial segregation in the United States. And this, what you see on screen, is what he had to say. Segregating any class or race of people apart from the rest of the people kills the progress of the segregated people or makes their growth very slow. Association of races and classes is necessary to destroy racism and classism. You have to understand that when Pratt said progress, he meant the delivery of European culture, as has been done for centuries. Okay. So you would think that forced segregation ended 60 years ago, right? And that there's no more racism and classism. Well, I beg to differ. Not only does racism and classism still exist, but both are thriving well, and not only to the detriment of melanated people, but a detriment to the whole planet. Now, the suffix ism is used to form nouns that denote a system of thought, belief, a practice, and is often referred to the specific ideology or movement or philosophy. Okay. They say it's derived from the ancient Greek suffix ismos. I want to make sure that you put everything in perspective. We're looking at things for the moment through the eyes of European culture, European history, European research, etc. So just make an internal note that when they say it was derived from Greek, Latin, etc., it actually came from the African ancestors, the Native American ancestors, which are the same people, believe it or not, okay, just two different continents, and learned scholars in ancient Mesopotamia, Ethiopia, and from a lot of papyri and books in the Timbuktu. Yes, those of you who were born 20, 30 years ago, yes, Timbuktu was a real place, okay? It was a school. And it was from the inscriptions in the pyramids and within the pyramids and the mounds built here in America. And in fact, our ancestors' footprints and DNA are all over the world. You cannot get rid of them. They have tried and keep trying and will never be able to do so. Matter is neither created nor destroyed. It just changes forms, frequencies, and wavelengths, and then keeps on moving. Okay. Now, here's some examples of that ism: capitalism, a system of economics; feminism, a social movement advocating for women's rights; and realism, a style in art and literature. Okay. So let's take a look at the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of racism. 1, a belief that race is a fundamental determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. And then 2, the systemic oppression of a racial group due to the social, economic, and political advantage of another, such as Trumpism, egotism, fanaticism. Those are another good examples of using the ism. Now let's look at the suffix ist, okay, because we were talking about being a racist. Now this transforms a word into a noun referring to a person who performs a specific action, makes or produces something, specializes in a particular field, or adheres to a doctrine or a system. So that's pretty easy. Examples like dentist, person who practices dentistry; a masochist, a person who likes to inflict pain or have pain inflicted on themselves; and a pessimist, a person who tends to look at the negative side of things. So if we go back to that definition again, remember, a belief that race is a fundamental determinant of human traits and capacities. Racial differences produce an inherent superiority. So they believe that, okay? And the systemic oppression of a racial group to the socioeconomic advantage of another group. So I ask you, can quote unquote Black people, my words are melanated, but can Black people be guilty of racism or be racist? And I'll leave that to you to decide based on the definitions. So back to colorism. So what sparked the recent colorism conversations? Okay, let's take a look at that. Well, The Hate You Give is a 2017 young adult novel by Angie Thomas. And it is Thomas's debut novel. It expanded from a short story that she wrote in college in reaction to the police shooting of Oscar Grant, who is a 22-year-old who was shot by a police officer in Oakland, California. Well, some people said that the social media came alive with concerns regarding this because actress Amanda Stenberg playing the lead in the film. They said this happened for two reasons. And the first is because the original book cover displayed a much, much darker protagonist, and Stenberg did not fit the same depiction. The second is because Hollywood is a very, quote unquote, I'm trying to be slick, but I'm not, unquote, tendency to cast multiracial, mixed race actresses as the only actresses that get to portray Black women, period. Okay. And this person says that this latter phenomenon is even more problematic than it sounds. They were having discussions saying that we must support the culture, of course, but we are Black. But that same culture turns around and implicitly tells us through media and colorism that not only do we not belong in the culture, but that we are not wanted in it. Okay. And they said we can look but cannot touch, and we certainly cannot participate. Interesting again. Ask yourselves, there really are no Black people and there really are no white people. So ask yourself, what is Black culture? The comments I was reading was from an article that was published in the 50 Shades of Black on this phenomenon as far as colorism. And they also had this to say about the movie X-Men. This is a picture of Amanda Stenberg and her parents. Her father, Tom, is Danish American. Mother, Karen Brailsford, they put African American. One of the people in the 50 Shades of Black article said Fox in particular would know about this participation, or rather lack thereof, okay, since they have transparently enforced the ugliness that is colorism in the X-Men franchise. That's within the last decade. The most obvious example is through the character Storm, which is a funny since current Storm non-actress Alexandra Shipp is a blatant and delusional colorism denier who would have no career if not for colorism, and who loves to, they use not a good word, loves to defecate on Storm, a canonically dark-skinned character, by saying her skin color is only a thing due to random crayon. Okay. If you also know that Halle Berry played Storm in the 2000 version of X-Men. And so you see Alexandra Shipp playing Storm in 2016. And should note that Allison Seeley Smith is the voice of Storm in the X-Men animated series. And she did that from 1993 to 1997. Last week, we talked about how melanated women, especially darker skinned melanated women, have to deal with issues of race, color, class, and gender. We also talked about how colorism negatively affects melanated women more than it does melanated men. And sometimes we do this to each other, which is the whole point of colorism. And so what we're going to do is take a look at 3 separate clips from Queen Sugar Q&A at Urban World 2017, a show that's no longer on the air, but you'll see what I mean.
So you're looking at Kofi, and so is everybody else. Look at that burger. I feel like our little brother, our little brother. a moment of silence for Ralph Angel.
Unbelievable.
Here is why. Because, I mean, the thing is that physical beauty, you did not do that. Ralph Angel did not, I mean, if you tell Kobe, you did not. You didn't make those cheekbones and that smile. That is God. That is something. I'm getting somewhere real with it. You didn't create your physical self. So even though we enter your physical self and it's beautiful, your performance, you did that. You allowed. So, okay, I'm going to talk about hair now. Yeah, I always have to. So, this moment of liberation through your hair. I remember y'all remember the first thing we saw the curls? You're like, oh, it's so that. Like, that really has become, like, in storytelling, when you see the real hair, that's a signal, that means something. Then when I saw your mama, because I was always confused about you. Look, there's all this chocolate. I know jeans, you know, whatever. I'm so like, I understand. But you made, she made sense today. Because your hair, when I really was obsessing on the texture of your hair when I saw it before. I'm like, how she get them, like, so. You made a lot of sense, like, a lot of your complexity. And I'm sure that women probably roll up to you all the time now and go like, I get it, I'm trying to hold this together, I'm trying to be strong, and the hair. I'm trying to hold all that together. Well, you don't have to talk about it. I really do want to talk about your complexity. Conversation with season 1, first shot, and we talked about it on the red carpet. And when you started in her hair, like in her blackity black hair, it wasn't like the little loose curls. You know, mixed curls. I was like, we had some black hair. We were like in it. And it pulled out into this brown skin. And I'm hearing Michelle, and I was just like, this is it. I'm in. And she got into your detail. She got into your kitchen. So just... It's hot and popping. She goes to the kitchen. But she got her baby. I think she got her baby hair.
My angels are laid.
So her baby hairs are laid. But so I really did dress for your hair today. But and I was a fan of yours in True Blood. Yeah. You didn't mess it up. Maintenance. But that is effort. But what did that moment feel like when you knew that there was a camera in your hair? Like that's you know, it's easy to have your butt out. Because we see that all the time. No, we see so much black ass, like that's not revolutionary. But it is radical to look at your hair and your skin as beautiful.
Thank you.
So you can see this is one of the reasons, among others, that has led women to pour out their hard-earned money to this billion-dollar industry, skin lightening, whitening, bleaching products. And as you can see, there has been 24 new ones with 2019 to 2022. And in fact, the global market is estimated to be 8.8 billion in 2022. Okay, it's projected to continue growing to reach 15.7 billion by 2030. The largest consumers for this sector include women of color, who account for approximately 80% of the worldwide sales. And this is just a few of them. And these are some of the effects, some of the actors and actresses, as you can see on the screen, the before and after. Some faces you might recognize. I'm not going to call out any names. Okay, let's look at colorism around the world. Take a brief look. Africa. In some parts of Africa, people with lighter skin are thought to be more attractive and likely to find more success than those with darker skin tones. In some countries, this barrier has resulted in millions of women and men turning to, like we just saw, the skin lightening treatments, many of which are very, very harmful to the body, but not just to the body. It also affects every part of you, because we're just not body. We're also mind, and we're also spirit. Historically, skin lightening in Africa can be dated to the European colonialism, where individuals with lighter skin received greater privilege than those of darker tones. The European colonists in Rwanda established a color-based caste system that placed the Tutsi people above the Hutu people on the basis of their somewhat lighter skin. I want to make a note here that the tactics don't change. We're still talking about the house nigga, N-I-G-G-A, and the field nigga, N-I-G-G-A, okay? The racial hierarchy and color ranking within colonized African nations left psychological effects on many of the darker skinned individuals, okay? In the 21st century, 77% of Nigerian women, 52% of Senegalese women, and 25% of Malian women are using lightening products. Okay. There's a report in Ghana that says, a quote, "When you are light-skinned, you earn more." Okay, that should tell you right there. Let's look at Asia. And India, a major market for skin lightening products. Okay, they have an estimated 60% of the dermatological market comprising such products, right? Considered one of the world's largest skin lightening markets. South Korea, their fair skin is a beauty ideal, and the use of skin lightening products is prevalent. And there are other Asian countries, okay, where the skin lightening is also practiced, okay, like the Philippines and Malaysia. Even in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, the skin lightening is a common practice among the women. Okay. It's also a common practice in Jordan. So the use of skin lightening practice in the Middle East has been attributed to the desire for upward social mobility and attractiveness. In India, so multiple studies have conducted that preference for lighter skin in India is historically linked to both the caste system and the centuries of rule by people from other areas, okay? There's Persia, Mughal territory, and Europe, okay? Colorism in India is also fed by the attitudes of Europeans who favor lighter skinned people for administrative positions and other prominent social positions. So power was conceptually intertwined with light skin. Rich Indians often tend to be light skinned due to less exposure to the sun. Some of the research shows that colorism has societal implications, many of which severely harm the socioeconomic mobility of darker skinned Indians. These can manifest in gender stereotyping and regional discrimination. Studies of melanin index, which they label as MI, in individuals across regions show that there are variations in skin color which contribute to the level of discrimination from darker skinned individuals that they face in these respective regions. In some regions of India, dark-skinned people are often seen as quote-unquote dirty and of lower status than lighter-skinned ones. So a light complexion is equated with male and female beauty, racial superiority, and power, and continue to have strong influence on their marital prospects, employment, status, and income. Now, it says most of the girls were denied employment due to the darker skin tone, but a few got jobs, but they were part of the out of sight ground crew. And then there's Sri Lanka. So the fair skin is a beauty ideal in contemporary Sri Lankan society, but it has its roots in ancient beauty ideals in the country. Fairness products and other products that include whitening agents are commonly sold in Sri Lanka and are popular among the females. The fair-skinned actors and actresses featured prominently in Bollywood films and Korean dramas, both of which are widely popular and influential in Sri Lanka. The Caribbean. In Haiti, skin bleaching to lighten one's skin, the brown paper bag test to verify one's skin tone, and degradation of darker complected Haitians as ugly are contemporary manifestations of colorism. In the Dominican Republic, quote-unquote blackness is often associated with the illegal Haitian migrant minority who have a lower class status in the Dominican Republic. People who possess more African-like phenotypic features are often victims of discrimination and are seen as foreigners. Latin America. Okay. Let's look specifically at Brazil. Brazil has the world's largest population of African descent outside Africa. Okay. The racially mixed individuals with lighter skin generally have higher rates of social mobility than the mixed race people with darker skin. There is a disproportionately higher number of people among the mostly European descended elites than there is among those elites whose members are of visible African descent. There are large health, education, and income disparities between the races in Brazil. And a recent study finds that skin color is a strong predictor of social inequality in Brazil than race. That is, the race color categories used on the Brazilian census. Okay, this highlights the fact that socially perceived skin color and race are not the same thing. Although browns are mixed and blacks comprise more than 50% of the population, they comprise less than 25% of all the elected politicians. In Chile, and there's a wide range of diversity from other cultures and ethnic backgrounds in Chile. The diversity in Chile sees colorism through socioeconomic status, accommodating the pre-existing notions that darker skin complexions are less valued, again. And a 2016 study found that Chilean school teachers expected less from their dark-skinned students, who they called morenos, than they expected from their light-skinned students, who they call blancos. Okay. Due to the history of colonization, being darker skinned and likely descended from enslaved Africans means that people are automatically considered members of the lower class. Current studies have revealed that many Chileans want to have lighter pigmentation. Whiteness is also associated with economic standing. A mixed race person may be considered quote unquote white if they are obviously educated and successful. Mexico. A 2017 study revealed a 45% gap in educational achievement between the darkest and the lightest skinned white Mexicans, and that wealth in the country similarly correlated to skin color. Colorism in Mexico is an ongoing problem that strongly affects people of darker skin tones living there. Color can affect Mexican citizens in their daily lives, their ability to get jobs, and their basic self-esteem. Mexicans and other Europeans, Mexicans have a long history of ancestry from sources other than the indigenous peoples, which are the Spanish, African, German, and other Europeans. The number of Mexicans who identified as mixed race increased from 3 million in 2010 to more than 20 million in 2020 as more individuals began to acknowledge mixed race. Skin color for Mexicans can range from white to black. More than half of Mexican citizens identify as mestizo or mixed race. And lastly, with respect to Mexico, the findings from a study they did at Vanderbilt University, it indicated that the skin tones appeared to be associated with educational achievement. And in Europe, now native dark-skinned African people living in the European Union have reported encountering discrimination based on skin color. Overall reports of skin color discrimination did not vary by gender, by the way, with an equal percentage of men and women, that is 38%, reporting skin color discrimination. A 2019 report by Universities UK found that students' race and ethnicity significantly affect their degree outcomes. And then in 2023, on the University of Cambridge survey, it featured the largest sample of Black people in Britain. It found that 88% have reported racial discrimination at work. 79% believe the police unfairly targeted Black people with stop and search powers, and 80% definitely or somewhat agreed that racial discrimination was the biggest barrier to academic attainment for young Black students. Now, say the one for Japan last, because this is the one that had what I would call, for lack of a better word, interesting aspects. It says that Hiroshima Wagatsuma, he writes in the Daedalus, and the Japanese culture has long associated skin color with other physical characteristics that signify degrees of spiritual refinement or degrees of primitiveness. In Japan, there is considerable discrimination and stigma against the skin color of white European women. Japanese women commonly state that white women's skin is too pale, or that it is rough, wrinkled, or has too many spots. Okay. Now, it's interesting to note that the Japanese culture, how they felt about skin color, and this was before, okay, and then after the influence of European culture. So they have always felt a certain attitude toward darker skin, a negative attitude toward darker skin. But it's interesting how some of the quotes I'm going to read you and how they view Europeans also. Mind you, all of these are quotes until I say there's no longer a quote. Disagreeable features for a woman are a large space, the lack of any tuft of hair under the temple, a big nose, thick lips, black skin, a big body, excessive tolerance, heavy, strong limbs, brownish, wavy hair, and a loud, talkative voice. Deep in my mind, it seems the Caucasians are somehow connected with something animal-like, especially when I think of a middle-aged Caucasian woman. The first thing which comes to my mind is a large lump of boneless ham. This kind of association may not be limited. As I recall now, one in English class at school, our teacher explained the meaning of the word called a big pig. A boy in our class that loudly, I know what it is. It's like a foreign, which means Caucasian woman. It says we all laughed, and I felt we all agreed with the boy. Okay. All right, so these are quotes. The next ones are from Japanese women who are actually married to quote unquote Black men. Frankly, I feel uneasy about it, Black skin, in the beginning, but you see it every day from morning to evening. There is nothing else you can do except get used to it. I did get used to it, especially since he was very nice and kind all the time. Once you get used to it, you no longer see it. The Negro special features, black skin, round eyes, thick round nose, the big lips, may very well be animal-like to the eyes of those accustomed only to the yellow or a white base, living long enough to all the Negroes. However, one comes to realize how human their faces are. The color of the Negroes can give one an overwhelming impression, but once one gets older and one notices how gentle their facial features are. Blackness is often combined with death, despair, and other kinds of negative things. A black-bellied man is wicked, and black is the depression. When something becomes dirty and smeared, it gets black. White in your mind can symbolize cleanliness. Then by an association, black is the opposite of purity and loveliness. Black can be just something that's unclean. It's just not the natural state of things. So you can understand why the racism and colorism will lead or has led to fatal casualties. Okay.
Today's Sandy Speaks is going to focus directly on my white people. What I need you to understand is that being a black person in America is very, very hard.
I will light you up. Get out!
Wow.
Now!
Sandy called me, let me know that she had been arrested. How do you go from failure to signal a lane change to dead in jail by alleged suicide?
I believe she let them know, I'll see you guys in court, and I believe they silenced her.
Do I think this jail had anything to do with her death? No. But moral responsibility-wise, absolutely.
If we want change, we can truly make it happen. Sandy Speaks.
And here are a few of the activists who have and are still addressing the issue of melanated women who are either dealt with or dealing with domestic abuse, suffering police brutality, or missing, or worse, have been killed. Andrea Ritchie, she's a writer, lawyer, and activist for women of color, especially LGBTQ women of color who have been victims of police violence. She's also the author of Invisible No More, A History of State Violence Against Women of Color. And she's the co-author of No More Police, which is a case for abolition with Mirami Kaba. And then there's a Pound Say Her Name by Kimberly Crenshaw. Ms. Crenshaw is a pioneering scholar and writer on civil rights and critical race theory. Her work has been foundational in critical race theory and in intersectionality, which is a term she coined to describe the double bind of simultaneous racial and gender prejudice. And the reason she uses the pound in front of the book title is because there have been so many books written with the title Say Her Name, both fiction and nonfiction. And then there's Say Her Name by Louise Emma Joseph. She's a member of the British Empire, but she's known professionally as Dretta Say Mitchell. She's a British novelist, broadcaster, journalist, and campaigner. In her book, Say Her Name, it highlights the many injustices of melanated women who have been kidnapped, gone missing, or even worse, and no justice is served. And then there's Say Her Name, Centering Black Feminism and Black Women in Sports by Leticia Ingracia Cardoso Brown. She's an assistant professor at University of Cincinnati in Ohio. This book offers an in-depth look into the experiences of melanated girls and women as athletes, activists, and everyday people through a melanated feminist lens. And then we have another longtime activist who happens to be one of our members of our tribe and also part of our podcast team, Miss Anita Wills. And in her book, A Nation of Flaws, Just Us, in the Homeland, Miss Wills lays out the history of policing beginning with Native Americans and then continuing on through slavery. She details how slave catchers, overseers, paddy rollers, bounty hunters, white militia, and KKK, they morphed into the present day law enforcement. You can find this and her other books on her website, www.blackpast.org. And then here's a similar author, okay? This book is a fiction, The Last Visitor, I did a long time ago. It begins with the Rodney King incident, the beating of Rodney King, and the riots and the burning, but it's told from the viewpoint of an innocent Caucasian man, Luther Rawlings. He becomes a victim. He does survive, but he becomes a victim. And while he's in the emergency room trying to recover, it's basically the book is told from the perspective of one of his longtime melanated friends, Hawk Williams. So where do we go from here? There are a lot of people who are doing a lot about this issue. Some people pretend that it doesn't exist, but there's a group called Confront Colorism campaign from the DoSomething.org, and they are doing a great deal. We have a lot of young people who are involved in this. In fact, they invite the young people to join with them.
As an African American female, I have noticed that sometimes African Americans or darker-skinned people get treated differently than lighter-skinned people. Darker skin can be portrayed as a bad thing, or can have lots of bad stereotypes attached to it, which can be very problematic. It seems that the colorism issue is worldwide from stories I have heard from people in other countries besides the United States. The truth is, every skin color is beautiful, and the whole spectrum of skin tones all over the world makes humans unique. Beauty is more than skin deep anyway.
I believe everyone should be equal no matter your race or skin tone. Personally, now that I have read about this topic, it has opened my eyes that this is true and it's happening. It's all over the place, including how more movies feature light-skinned actors than dark-skinned actors. This has to stop not only in movies but also in education, employment, justice, and etc. There should be no beauty standards when it comes to skin tones. This is an important topic that should be discussed more.
Colorism is very prevalent in my community. Living in Puerto Rico, I have heard many people make colorist comments without realizing that the things they are saying are wrong. Not long ago, one of the assistants at my dentist's office was telling me about another patient. She told me, "Ella es bonita por ser negrita," meaning she is beautiful for a black girl. I was confused and upset about this comment. I had never heard anyone ever say such a thing. I realized that the assistant doesn't realize her comment was wrong because of what our culture has said about darker skin tones for so long, but that doesn't make it right. Racism and colorism in Puerto Rico, and likely many other cultures, is internalized, and it is something I actively try to fight so that others can be more open-minded and choose not to subscribe to disgusting and hurtful ideologies.
I consider myself to live in a bubble. A lot of people in my community prefer to believe that colorism does not exist where we live, but I've seen it exist firsthand. A lot of my peers are interested in advocating for social justice, and I legitimately think that sharing this quiz with them is a great way to spread awareness to something that might seem otherwise invisible to them.
It's good to see that there are young people who understand and that colorism does exist, even though it's more covert than overt. And you just heard their voices. And this is Ronald Wimberly. He's a cartoonist, and he established what they call the toolkit for what's colorism. And this is a toolkit that presents an activity that educators can use to discuss colorism with the students. It centers on a graphic essay that looks at colorism in a comic. And among other activities, it features what we call Lighten Up, a graphic essay about race, representation, and colorism in a Marvel comic. Cartoonist Ron Wimberly, he created that Lighten Up for the online magazine called The Nib. Lastly, there was a study that was done in 2022 with a group of people from the University of Southern Mississippi called The Effects of Skin Tone on the Perception of Young African American Women. And Daniel Stamps, a research specialist, Master of Science, Elena Stepanova, Assistant Professor of Psychology, and Jin Hao Chi has a PhD graduate. He's a PhD graduate and has a Doctor of Philosophy. They created a questionnaire, and this questionnaire on colorism, I'm actually going to make available once the video is published, and it also is available on our website. So, loving the skin you're in, despite racism and colorism. That's what I basically wanted to end with, to show there are some who actually love and appreciate their skin tone, which they should. We all should, no matter what skin you're in, whether you are considered whatever the different names they give to the different shades. We are beautiful women, and you should always consider yourself as such. One is not better than the other. We need to teach society that. And when you speak on a topic, it hits you first. It heals you first. And I've had to dealt with a lot of racism and a lot of colorism throughout my entire life, almost 70 years that I'm pretty much been on this planet. And so these are books that I wrote a while back. One is Why I Should Hate Men But Don't. That was a healing I had to go through from different things I encountered, and to understand the racism, colorism I dealt with. Same thing, and We'll Work for Food, Family, and Freedom. I actually need to do another sequel to that one, because that one was from a while back, and so much has happened since then. So there are another book coming, at least one. And the other one, I'm going to encourage young women, or just women of color, to actually get this one, Spiritual Cosmetics for the Soul. Because the whole point is that we're so focused on our external, our makeup, and what we look like, and the image and the self-image, what I've been talking about this whole time. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But remember, we are not just the external of what people see. We are spirit, mind, and body. Spirit first, then mind, and then body. And I was reminded of that by one of our tribal members, Juliana, who put it so expertly. Spirit, mind, and body. And so it's not just our external, our body. That, in fact, that should be the least that you should be focused on as far as what you adorn, what you put on, and how you look. It's what's inside of you. And that's what the whole point of Spiritual Cosmetics for the Soul. We want to be beautiful from the inside out. And with that, I thank you all so much for putting up with me these past 4 weeks, and know that I love all of you. And as I said before, I only have so much time on this planet. I have so many other things that are coming, other videos, but the focus is on healing and reaching the least common denominator, and that is the melanated people, because of our situation as a whole. It's putting together a puzzle. And when you put together a puzzle, you have to put like pieces first, and then other like pieces next. And the same thing when it comes to your body. If your stomach hurts, why would you focus on your toes? Or if you have, when you go to emergency room, which when I was pre-med, I volunteered a long time ago in the emergency room. And if you have somebody come in with a paper cut, why would you focus on that individual first when you have someone who has a gunshot wound? Okay, so keep that in mind, that I love all of you. If you're on this planet and you're a living being, that means I love you. God bless you. Peace and love.
Excellent. And we love you too, Dr. Malo. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the time, energy, wisdom, all of the resources, all the researching, all of the hours and hours and hours I can definitely attest to that you have put into this 4-week presentation. We love you so much. Thank you so much for this, for sharing this 4-week series for us. We are super and eternally grateful for you. And we definitely would love to open up the floor to any comments, any questions anyone has, anything you would love to share. The floor is open for you to please do so. And I just wanted to say regarding the, Michaela Angela Davis, she's the one that was the host of the Urban World clip that you shared, Dr. Malo. And, she's an author and activist. And it really shocked me the first time I saw that, because I look at her as they consider, just using their words, like a Black power, pro-Black type person. And just to see that the colorism is so strong and so deep, even if it's subconsciously, it can still come out with our words and things we say. And I just was amazed at how she was, had her own words, how she was obsessing over the hair texture of the lighter skinned actress Dawn Lynn, who was actually half Asian, half melanated in real life. And, how she was obsessing with her hair texture, the curly hair. But then for Rutina Wesley, it was saying that, she also focused on Kofi, the actor, the male actor, and how gorgeous he was being dark skinned. But with Rutina, it was, quote, radical. She never said that she was pretty or that she was beautiful. She just said, well, God made you. You didn't do that either. But I never heard her say you're beautiful, you're gorgeous, or that your hair texture is beautiful and gorgeous. She said, it's radical to see ourselves, to look at your skin. It's radical to look at your hair and skin. It's beautiful. And that's just amazing, that contrast in between what she said about Kofi, the male, versus what she said about Rutina, the female. It just blows my mind, how people, just what's incorporated, what's ingrained sometimes in us, even if it's subconscious. And, when I was in 2019, I was dealing the World Series of Poker in Vegas, and I dealt with a Dominican girl. She was brown skinned, gorgeous, beautiful girl. And she told me that one of the Caucasian players told her, oh, you're beautiful for a dark skinned girl. And this is 2019. And it blew my mind that people still speak that way. They still say those things. They still have that 1800 mentality. I mean, that just blows my mind. But for people out there that say, oh, this isn't true, there's no image, there's no colorism, all you have to do is look at the media, look at the way their people are presented, look at who's not, who is, just look at the media, and then look at like what you presented, the $billion industry of skin lightening products. To this day, to this hour, people are lightening their skin because they don't want that gorgeous melanin. There's something wrong, and so that's obviously, it's still a problem. So again, thank you so much, Dr. Malo. My mother, my mom, Dr. Malo, so proud of you. So I'm blessed to have you. So grateful for you, and thank you for all the time you put into this presentation. It's much needed.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And so I just want to yield the floor. I see our brother Mark, Sister Carmela. Please, if you have any comments, anything you'd like to share, we would love to hear from you.
I'm not even tracing. I'll interject a couple things. So most of the time, well, I'm not gonna say most of the time, all of the time for me, I like to speak from experience and what I've observed or I've dealt with. So I spent 2 different times. I think the first time was 8 months, second time was about a year in the Philippines. And the natural people of the Philippines, and we're talking about when you go back, they call them the Negros. They are very dark. You would think they were from Africa. They're very short, but they stay up in the mountains. So the Aboriginal people of the Philippines are very dark. But when you're in the Philippines and you're in Metro Manila, you're not in Cebu or the outskirts or the many islands that they have. Most of the people are light, and they're light because everything that they sell them has whitening cream in it, from the soap, from the lotion, from the alcohol, everything that they use. And that's been portrayed to them because of being a country that doesn't have really natural resources and money. They have to get it from the outside, so everything has to be brought to them, and they're paid for. China sends their garbage to the Philippines, right? But the Chinese are taking over, and the American buildings that was there, because at the time I opened 2 call centers for American Express in the Philippines. So I had to go through culture training with them. But the big companies like American Express, Citibank, those particular companies, HSBC, that come in, they tend to hire them. Of course, it's a very low wage compared to what we would make, but it's great for them because the average salary is $40 a month. But the lighter you were, allows you to get those opportunities to work. So a person with an average salary is $40 a month when they're there, and you're of a lighter Filipino that can come in to a call center and make $200 a month, it's great. So from a tourist perspective, dealing with other nations that are lighter, they tend to cater towards them because they're looking to be able to somehow assimilate with them and get those particular contracts. Now, being that the times that I was there, I immersed myself in the culture. Speaking Tagalog, the time I was there the second time, I can go out, unlike most people, and speak the language and travel. I began to find out they don't particularly like the Caucasians in China. They like us. They're amazed because that takes them back. But in order to survive, they do what they have to do.
Right.
And there was a part that Doc put up when you talked about racism. And I never forgot, and we're talking about Dr. Claude Anderson, Black Labor, White Wealth. And then he had a follow-up book called Powernomics. But in there, I have it on VHS, is how old it is. But he talked about racism. And he says, you have to understand that people like us can never be racist.
That's right.
He says it comes from the root word race, but it means when one race has so much power and control, they can use it to manipulate and control another race. We never had that. So if you want to get electricity, you want to get a job, we don't have that power to do that. Even within our quote unquote so-called own communities, we don't have that because we don't own it. You can go to Chinatown, and it was on 60 Minutes. They have Chinatown. Well, Chinatown had their own police office.
That's right.
Until they went in there and, busted it up because they were doing other things besides just policing the people or giving visas, etc. But we never had that power because we never came together to unify to own something.
Bingo.
But these other races and groups do, where they can use that. How many times have you seen in the past where you go to a Chinese restaurant and you see a Caucasian or a brother working for them? Right? So in a sense, they use racism and they only hire their own, right? So, and that's on a broad scale all the way around. So we don't have that power control to hold another race or harm another race and keep them down. One of the reasons, because we're not unified. We can have it when we start looking at Crystal Village, we start looking at the land. You can do that once you get yourself together and keep everything in. But the type people that we are, we invite everyone. There is no such thing for us to be, again, we can't be racist, but to try to discriminate. We're all God's people and we love everyone. So we've never used that to kind of benefit us or move us ahead as a culture. So didn't want to talk too long, but those are just my personal experience by being in the Philippines and why they spend so much money on whitening cream and they sell it to them because they want the people who work with them to bring in money. It's more of that's what I have to do to survive. And
That's
it trickles down to what? To their kids, et cetera, the children that they have in that situation. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Doc, again, great presentation. Over the past couple weeks, it just brings some things to light. And Tracy mentioned it. It's subconsciously we don't even think about it. It's what's portrayed. When people see dark skinned people, they immediately have a fear, right? Because everything is not just from a distance. What do you see, right? So you see the eyes, and then you don't see them until you get up close. And then when you get up close, you can now see the features, and it puts you at ease. But when you're not integrated with that person and you stand off, yeah, it's just gonna look like, okay, yeah, I'm a little fearful, right? Because I can't see what I want to see. I can't read that person. I can't read their facial expressions from far away. But as they get closer, they're more intimate, then they understand, okay. And they mention it in there, like, oh, now that I got close to them, now you can now see the person for who they are. You can see their expressions and see that, I don't need to worry about my safety in a sense. So these are just some of the things subconsciously people don't really think about. It's just what's known. It's, you get into an elevator, what do? They grab their purse, or they move to the side, things of that nature. But we go through it, and it's just something that's there. But I did want to touch on that racism. Dr. Claude Anderson, he put that in perspective for me probably in 19, must have been 1993, 94. That was he was in California at a church when he spoke, when he actually broke that down.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
Brother Mark.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned Dr. Anderson, because I actually tried to get in touch with him. I wanted him to come and speak. I haven't got a response, but I only tried one time. But you're absolutely right. When it comes to, the Hispanics will take care of their own. The Asians will take care of their own. The Jews will take care of their own. Other groups will take care of their own. But for some reason, like I said, we love everybody. However, like I said, from the very beginning, have to cater to the least common denominator. We need we need more at this point in time. So it's just like you may have 5 children, okay, and all 4 of them are doing fine, but you have one who needs your more attention at that point in time than the others do. It doesn't mean that you don't love the others. It's just that child needs you more, needs something in addition to. So you can't just say, oh, well, we just everything applies to all of them. So, and like you mentioned, Claude, Dr. Claude Anderson, when he said that when you just put everything for everybody, that's how we end up losing all the time, because there's nothing there, especially for us, to help us. We need to help each other. But remember when I talked about that's why I showed all the billionaires that we have. Okay. We don't have as much comparatively, but we have folks out there who have millions, who have hundreds of millions, who have money. If we just all learn to network and pull everything together and help each other and get out of the selfishness that it seems like a lot of us have. And that's one of the key things. And I just want to say one last thing when it comes to myself, as far as with the colorism and all the things I had to work through. And my daughter will attest to this. Then she'll give you an example. I went through life with a lot of things I didn't realize. That's why I encountered a lot of things I did. Okay. And it had to take me back later, exploring all these issues and what have you, to realize, because I knew about racism, but as far as the colorism, I didn't realize that also was impacting me with a lot of things that are detriments, a lot of things that I encountered. And I want Tracy to give the one example. And I was totally oblivious, but until she told me, and then it's like I said, even with that during that time, it was a disappointment, but because I've been through so much in my life, it doesn't really hurt at that time. But I forgot what year it was, but Tracy can give you the example, and then we can, let Sister Carmela see if she has any comments, and then we can dismiss.
Yeah, Sister Carmela actually had to leave. She has her appointment she had to get to,
Right.
And her internet also keeps kicking her off. So,
okay.
But yeah, this was, I believe, it was 20. It wasn't too long ago. It wasn't 1820, it was 2020. And it was unfortunate. It was the Wynn Casino. I have no problem calling them out. The Wynn Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. And they were hiring for poker dealers. My mom and I used to deal poker. And we were going there to just a pre-meeting to schedule the audition to deal poker. And she and I were at the end of the line. We just got there late. So we were at the end of the line, and I was watching each person that went in, because I'm just observant like that. And I was watching each person that went in, and I saw by what they said that each one that went in, they were given their audition date when they were supposed to go and do their poker audition. It got to me. I went in there. I met with it was a young Hispanic guy that was the one that was scheduling these auditions. And he straight out told me, your friend out there, he didn't know that was my mom. He said, your friend out there, she's not going to get an audition, but I want you to pretty yourself up like Cinderella, do your hair pretty up like Cinderella. And, she's not going to get an audition, but if you tell her anything, then you won't get an audition. I didn't say anything. I just shook my head because I already knew that I was going to report him and demand that he be fired right then and there. I don't care what anybody says. People can make excuses for why is this and that. No, I watched each person that went in there. I saw heavyset people. I saw younger people. I saw older people. I saw Black men, melanated men. I saw Caucasian men, Caucasian women, Hispanic men, Hispanic women, all sizes, all shapes. Only thing I didn't see was a melanated woman. And my mom at the time had a short natural hair. And, and so he's telling me that, and I just left out. My mom went in after me, and she came out smiling. And I asked her, what did he say to you? And she said, oh, he told me they don't, they're not hiring right now for that. They don't have the openings. They're not hiring right now, but he'll definitely keep me in mind for, when they are. Isn't that? And then she kind of paused because she saw my expression, this brokenhearted look on my face. And she said, isn't that what he told you? And I said, no. And I told her exactly what he had said. And, to this day, that still breaks my heart. That's just one of many things I personally have experienced. And my mom, things that she's been through because of colorism, because she and I have worked different places together, dealing poker, doing our nonprofits, things like that. So I've seen firsthand the way she's been treated. And even now it upsets me and infuriates me that, like my brother Mark talked about, how the Philippines, they wouldn't get the opportunity to work because of their skin tone. This piece of trash wasn't going to allow my mom to get an opportunity just to audition to deal poker, which she was uber experienced for, just because of her melanated skin. And maybe he didn't like her hair texture. And it blows my mind, and it still infuriates me. And I'm sorry, I have to calm down, but I get sick and tired of things like that. And things happen, as we do as people, we move on, we go on, we get over it. But to this day, I wish I had just went in there and, I was going to come back and, kind of like set him up, record him so that I could get it on tape. Because as we know, if we don't have it written in blood that, oh yeah, I'm doing this to her because of XYZ, then it didn't happen and it's not discrimination. So I was going to plan to set him up, but as we as a people do, we move on to the next thing, to the next job, the next opportunity, we go on. But I'm just so brokenhearted at that he wasn't going to give her the opportunity. We all talk about equal opportunity. He wasn't going to give her that equal opportunity just to audition because he was afraid that she would pass the audition and would be a dealer at the Wynn Casino. And so he'll reap the consequences, the karma, the whatever you want to call it for what he did. He won't get away with it. And that's just one of many I've experienced with her. And as you can see, I'm the one that is angry. You can call it bitter, you can call it negative, pessimist, whatever. But I'm the one that's angry at the experiences my mom has been through because she is so amazing and talented and gifted times a million. And to see her be treated the way she has, even tribal members that were part of us, once they saw her chocolate skin, all of a sudden now the respect level went away. They devalued her. Oh, they found any little lame reason to leave once they saw what she looked like. Even those that had the same skin complexion as her, still, you're chocolate, and all of a sudden now you're devalued and you're less than. And, let me use any lame excuse for why I'm going to leave and run away and not be a part anymore. But know that things like this are important to expose it so that you can heal from it, so that it can stop, so that people can grow up, bring back humanity, bring back love, bring back peace, and just give everyone a chance to live and love in peace. I yield.
And so it shall be written, so it shall be done. It will take place. And I am the eternal optimist. So I do know that that our people are not completely lost. And a lot of times you just have to put things out there for people. I'm a firm believer in that when the student is ready, the teacher will be there for them. Okay. The teacher is always there to show up, but the student has to be ready. So we do these podcasts, and we do the teachings, everything we put out there. And so we have a lot of crooked sticks out there. So we're laying the straight sticks. Okay. So we're showing them, even though we're telling them, we're showing them. So, and I appreciate everybody who has participated. I appreciate you, Brother Mark, very so much for so many things. Okay. This is just one of them, for your support. And so my daughter, I love her so much, so dearly, and I appreciate her. She's always one that I always can depend on. And so with that, we are going to end the podcast, and be safe, be healthy. Okay.
Peace and love, everyone.
Peace and love. All right.